Ray, when my daughter was born, I remember my buddy Dave telling me that being a parent means that you're scared all the time.
Oh, yeah, I get that. I mean, you're with your own kids, and the world seems like a much more dangerous place than when you only had to worry about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're both parents, and of course, would do anything for our kids.
Of course.
But if someone ever threatened one of your kids, who would that person have to worry about more, you or your wife?
Oh, no question. I'd kill any threat to my kids, but Mama Bear would make them suffer first.
Same over here. There's something about a mom defending her kids. I mean, only a fool would ever get between a mama and her cub, which is what brings us to Royalton, Vermont.
We're standing on the town green in the center of town. It's a pretty little Vermont town situated on the banks of the White River. There's a cute little gazebo on one side of the park.
And on the opposite side of the green is this granite arch.
It reads, The Handy Memorial 1780, and there's some names inscribed on the stone.
This is Vermont's only Revolutionary War monument dedicated to a woman. We've come to Royalton, Vermont, searching for a hero named Hannah Handy. Hello, I'm Jeff Belanger.
And I'm Ray Auger. Welcome to episode 254 of the New England Legends podcast. Thank you for joining us on our mission to chronicle every legend in New England, one story at a time.
We're a community of legend seekers who are always on the hunt for roadside oddities, heroes, ghosts, monsters, aliens, and just about anything else that bumps in the night. And did you know that most of our story leads come from you? This one did. Thank you to Evan Thomas for sending this one in. Don't assume we've heard the strange tale from your town. Please reach out to us anytime through our website, through our super secret Facebook group, or on our social media. We love hearing from you.
We also love when you subscribe to our podcast because it's free. We don't want you to miss a thing. And tell a friend or two about the show. It's how we grow.
Now, before we go looking for the hero that is Hannah Handy, we want to take just a minute to tell you about our sponsor, Nuwadi Herbals.
Since it's summer, we want to protect our children of all ages from mosquitoes, ticks, and of course sunburns. Step 1, you need to keep some No-Skeeto, all-natural insect repellent around from Nuwadi Herbals.
No-Skeeto is DEET-free, so it's safe for your kids and around your pets. Made with essential oils, it repels naturally all those annoying insects of the summer season.
We also know that no matter how careful we are, sometimes we get poison ivy or sunburns or bug bites.
We do. And the worst part about those kinds of skin problems is that they can last for days. I mean, the itching, the burning, it's awful.
That's why Nuwadi Herbals offers their Moccasin Tracks Balm, made with all-natural ingredients like plantain leaf, calendula flower, and white willow bark. This balm will soothe those bites and burns right away.
There's also Moccasin Tracks body oil, using the same natural ingredients as the balm. The base has extra virgin olive oil and corn oil as a moisturizer. You can add some to your bathtub or rub some oil on your skin post-shower to soothe and moisturize your irritated skin.
Nuwadi Herbals is a family-run business, and almost all of their products are made by hand.
Let Nuwadi Herbals help support your healthy lifestyle. Check out the Nuwadi Herbals website to see all of their great products, and you get 20% off your order when you use the promo code LEGENDS20 at checkout. Visit nuwadiherbals.com. That's Nuwati Herbals with an S.com.
All right, Jeff, so this handy memorial in the center of Royalton, Vermont, is the state's only monument to a woman from the Revolutionary War?
It is, and I'm quite sure other Vermont women performed heroic acts during the Revolutionary War, but this one was remembered, or probably should say rediscovered, by a Royalton historian named Evelyn M. Wood Lovejoy, who authored a 2-volume history of Royalton back in 1911.
To figure out how and why this monument got here, let's head back to 1780 and meet Hannah Handy. It's October of 1780. We're more than 5 years into the Revolutionary War, and it's not going well for the British.
But for the Handy family here in Royalton, a frontier community on the banks of the White River, they're more concerned with their day-to-day survival than who they pay taxes to.
Still, there's word of trouble getting closer lately. People here are nervous.
The first shot of the Revolutionary War was fired in Massachusetts on April 19th, 1775. The British had hoped to crush the rebellion quickly and put the colonies back in line, but the American will to fight has been strong. July 4th, 1776, America declared its independence from England, but King George isn't going to let the colonies go that easily. Plus, there's still plenty of loyalists who prefer to remain subjects of the king. In December of 1776, George Washington crosses the Delaware River and brings the fight to the British and their German allies. By 1778, France gets involved in the fight against the British, and all over the colonies, the British are getting hammered.
When people are fighting for their homes, it makes for a formidable enemy.
No doubt. Now that it's 1780, it's clear the direction of the war is going America's way. In fact, the British have pretty much lost the northern states, so they're resorting to terror tactics on the frontier settlements in the hopes of keeping America from spreading north into British Quebec. The British are forming new alliances with natives from the north, specifically the Mohawk and Abenaki.
Over the last several weeks, a handful of British soldiers led by Lieutenant Richard Houghton have gathered Mohawk and Abenaki forces to lead raids on villages along the Mohawk River Valley in New York and the White River in Vermont.
It's October 16th here in the quiet village of Royalton, Vermont. There are about 25 homes located on both sides of the White River. Everyone's on edge. There's been talk of Indian raids. People are being captured and killed. It's quiet. Too quiet. Suddenly, the Mohawk and Abenaki are moving from house to house, capturing prisoners, killing livestock, and burning the houses and barns before moving on to the next home.
At the Handy home, Robert sees the fires in the distance and immediately jumps on his horse and races west towards a nearby fort in Bethel. He tells his wife, 27-year-old Hannah, to hide with their young son Michael and their younger daughter Lucretia while he brings back reinforcements.
The raid continues through Royalton. In the confusion, Michael is snatched away, but Hannah Handy manages to escape and hide with Lucretia, where she'll have to wait till the raid is over. Most of the town is burned, and many prisoners are captured, not just Michael Handy, but other young kids as well, plus 34 adult men from Royalton.
By that night, 300 militia from Vermont have gathered and tracked the raiding party. They start to attack, but quickly shut down when they're warned that the raiding party will execute their prisoners. So the militia retreats.
Back in Royalton, the survivors are despondent. Most have lost their homes and livestock. Many have lost children, and the local militia failed to do anything about it. They learned the British plan is to march all of the prisoners to Canada. Given that it's already mid-October and the journey will take weeks, many won't survive that cold march.
Hannah Handy is seething. While others are fretting, she takes action. The Handy family helped a local Indian recently, and he seemed eager to repay the kindness. He offers to guide Hannah to the raiding party's camp. Hannah and her guide cross the White River and walk all the way to the camp, where she sees British Lieutenant Houghton, the Mohawk and Abenaki, and the prisoners from Royalton.
Hannah marches right up to Houghton and informs him that she's come to retrieve her son. Lieutenant Houghton explains her son is now a prisoner who will be marched to Canada. And that's when Hannah explains to Houghton that her young son likely won't survive the journey and that his blood would be on Houghton's hands. She appeals to him that he's above killing a child. Houghton ponders for a moment. He considers himself a civil gentleman, if nothing else, so he agrees to turn Michael back over to his mother.
Hannah, though, isn't finished. She sees an opportunity. She tells Lieutenant Houghton that if any of the child prisoners die on their march to Canada, that their blood will also be on his hands. And even worse for the British, if those children die, it will turn public sentiment even more sour on British rule. In short, it would be bad for the British war effort. Houghton agrees again and ultimately turns 8 more children over to Hannah Handy, who marches them back home to Royalton. And that brings us back to today.
Hannah Handy's heroic act was not forgotten in Royalton. 9 children came home that day thanks to a mother who would not take no for an answer. We know Hannah's husband died soon after the raid, but we don't know his cause of death. And Hannah remarried. She eventually moved to Hoosick Falls, New York, to live with her daughter Lucretia. Her date of death, or even where she's buried, is unknown.
Hannah's story would have eventually faded into the background here in Royalton if not for the efforts of local historian Evelyn Lovejoy, who we mentioned earlier. Lovejoy authored The History of Royalton back in 1911. Lovejoy makes the case that there were descendants of those 9 children living in town right now who owe a monument to Handy as a token of thanks.
So, Lovejoy wrote letters. She asked friends and neighbors to contribute some money for a memorial. At one point, the Mormon Church donated $200. But so many local Protestants were so angered by the Mormon donation that they threatened to withhold their own donations. In the end, Lovejoy had to return the Mormon money, even though she was appalled by the bigotry in town.
It takes several years, but by August of 1915, Lovejoy is ready to see all of her hard work and lobbying come to fruition in the form of this stone arch installed on the town green. The inscription reads, "In honor of Hannah Hunter Handy, who rescued 9 children from the Indians at the burning of Royalton, October 16, 1870. Later, she married Gideon Mosher of Sharon, Vermont." The other side of the arch lists the names of those captured, killed, and rescued in the burning of Royalton in 1780.
The timing of this memorial is also important. When Lovejoy's book came out in 1911, women's suffrage was a growing issue in the United States. Women were fighting for the right to vote. Part of the battle for that right was to show the world contributions that women have made throughout time. I mean, history is told by the winners, and most often by men. Women have been left out of the narrative. When this stone arch was erected in 1915, it showed everyone in town that some of their neighbors wouldn't even be alive if not for a woman who acted when families were caught off guard and when the local militia failed. A hero named Hannah Handy.
Five years later, in 1920, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified, giving women the right to vote. And that brings us to After the Legend, where we take a deeper dive and sometimes go off the rails.
Sometimes. After the Legend is brought to you by our Patreon patrons. This group of insiders are the backbone of everything we do. It takes a lot to bring you a new story each and every week. There's our hosting and production costs, marketing costs. It's a big undertaking, but you can help. For just $3 per month, you get early access to new episodes, plus bonus episodes and content that no one else gets to hear. Head over to patreon.com/New England Legends to sign up. Hannah Handy.
Hannah Handy.
A couple points. It was also sometimes spelled Hendee, Hendee. And the reason we really don't know is because Hannah and her husband were illiterate. They would just make their marks. And it makes
That's
me wonder,
interesting.
like how many last names? So someone's just like, I think it was Handy, Handy.
Right.
And so how many people's last names have been misspelled forevermore?
I did my genealogy, and it
Yep.
was interesting because I did go back and I found some variations of family names, not so much mine, but they would change over the years, yeah.
Yeah, and because lots of people were illiterate.
Yeah.
And so you don't know how to spell, you just sound it out, and someone who does know how to spell may not know how to spell that well.
I came from a long line of uneducated people, and that answers so many
And
questions.
here we are today. So another really interesting thing that happened, August 2018, just a few years ago, they had to take down the Handy Monument in Royalton for repairs. They wanted to rebuild it, shore it up and everything.
Yeah.
And when they took it down, they found 2 time capsules in the base of the monument, which was really cool.
That wasn't documented that they were there?
Nope.
Wow.
So as they're taking the base apart, which was actually sort of common, that
Was
you
it?
when you build monuments, you put time capsules in
Right,
there.
but you think somebody would have written that down for future generations. Like, oh, that's a great idea. We're going to put this in there. Oh, in 50 years, it's going to be crazy. They're going to see it. And who put we didn't write it down? Oh.
Well, I also think when they put it in, you don't know. You hope the monument never comes down.
Right.
You hope they're never found, right? You hope that it's just cared for and that it survives. But so 2018,
More of a tomb than a time capsule.
right?
All right.
But they're discovered and they're opened. And what's cool is when there was a big sort of town event to like, hey, we're going to open the time capsule, see what's inside. And they pointed out in 2018 that, hey, there's people in the audience right now that are watching this that are descendants
Yeah.
of the survivors and the children who were rescued by Hannah Handy. You would literally possibly not be alive today if not for Hannah Handy, right, who brought the kids back, who grew up, had children of their own, and so
Right.
on and so on. So anyway, so they opened it up, and a few of the things inside, mainly paper stuff. There was a Lovejoy's book, The History of Royalton was in there, a Bible, and a flyer for something they called Old Home Week, which is something that Royalton still does. It's like an annual event. And there was a 1915 typed script of a play that reenacted the Royalton raid.
Oh, wow.
And talked about that. So yeah, really interesting. And and it was covered by the press and so on. But it was in there for over 100 years. And think about it. When that monument went up, women couldn't vote.
Yeah.
Women couldn't vote. And I think part of what Lovejoy was doing was you needed to tell the stories of some female heroes.
Right.
And that's one of the things that she did. Hey, in our town.
Took a lot of guts to do what she did.
And I mean, there's got to be so many other stories like that, but they're just sort of lost, or we don't know them, And that's what I think is so cool about a monument. We see monuments all the time. We're traveling through town. You and I are guys that are interested in that stuff, but we don't always look. You're just like, oh, monument. Okay.
It's there. You don't think much of it.
You don't. But then,
did you see the one right outside here?
The one right outside there,
General Draper. And that was constructed and designed by somebody who made some pretty big. I think it was the Lincoln Monument in Washington. Right. That's kind of cool. The connection there. Same guy.
Right. But you have to walk up to it and read it.
Yeah. Right.
And so sure, if I'm in a park taking a stroll, you see a monument, you give it a read. And what the monument does is, not everyone obviously, but sometimes you read it and you go, well, who was that? Someone was important enough to get this monument, and then hopefully you start asking questions. So my point is, sometimes it takes a monument. They force us to ask, like, why are they here? And then learn about the people who left a mark. And that, it's amazing. And the thing is, had a man from Royalton marched up to that camp, probably would have been killed or captured.
Sure.
Right? Like one guy, hey, I got to talk to you, Houghton.
So she kind of threw them off by being a woman.
By being a woman who appealed to his senses and dignity, she got it done. And
I like how she got her son, but then didn't stop there. It's like, wait a minute, you know what? I'm going for more.
Yeah, darn right. And she got all the kids back. Yeah. And that's finesse. That's negotiating.
Wasn't war. It wasn't fighting.
Nope.
You're right. It was, look, this won't look good for you.
Bad look. Yeah. She knew it.
And he said, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it would be a bad look if these kids die.
That was good politics.
This illiterate 27-year-old from Royalton who was being a mama bear and knew the best way to get her kid back was not to go threaten him, not to go in with soldiers and guns, but the soldiers and guns failed. They tried. And she's like, I got this.
Yep.
Hold my beer, right? Hold my beer. And she wanders off, and people are like, oh, there she goes, and walks back with 9 kids.
Yeah.
That's
pretty amazing.
That's pretty amazing. Like I could only hope that any of us would have that kind of poise and tact and know the right thing to say.
We're men. We wouldn't.
No, we'd be like, let's fight, and be like, yeah, put him in cuffs. You're going. Welcome to Canada, eh? And there we would be marching, going, damn it, and with black eyes, So it's the 19th Amendment, of course, was passed August 18th, 1920, giving women the right to vote and declaring for the first time that they deserve all rights and responsibilities of citizenship.
And it's so weird that that's going to change, like within the next 10 years or so.
It's a little scary, isn't it? We're living in some strange times.
Yes, we are.
Where, we are definitely living in some strange times. But throughout history, there have been many stories, and one of the things that I love about what we do is we get to sometimes put a little spotlight on someone that deserves it.
The little stories, yeah.
The little stories. It has a monument, but if you're not wandering through downtown Royalton, and if you don't bother to take a look at that stone arch right there on the town green, cute little town, of course, Royalton, if you don't bother to take a look at it and ask some questions, you may not know the story.
That could have been bigger in the grand scheme of things, too, where now soldiers thought twice about capturing children. It was like, maybe children should be, taboo. We don't touch them. Women and children, we leave them alone. Press, because the press isn't supposed to be hassled when they're in the middle of a war.
Right.
So children, press, women, that kind of thing. So maybe she sparked something.
But I mean, she was absolutely on the money there. And I think about, we started this podcast talking about being dads. And you change when you're a parent.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
the second you become a parent, because no matter who you look at now, like, yeah, that's someone else's kid. Like, you could be mine.
Right.
You sort of feel like this sort of like, you got to look out for all the kids.
Yeah, you do.
Because you're just like, oh, I would want someone to look out for mine. If I wasn't there, what would I want some other parent to do?
How many times have you said, who's watching that kid?
Who's watching that kid?
You're just walking around at a mall or on the side of the road. Who's watching that kid?
You know who is? You are.
Right, exactly.
As the kid's about to jump into the fountain with a radio plugged in, and you're like, whoa. And you go over there and you're like, I just saved your life and you're just running off now and no one's going to know, You're about to do something so stupid because kids are dumb. Because they're all dumb.
They are.
But what are you going to do?
Please be sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcast because it's free. And please help spread the word. You telling other people is how our community continues to grow.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, Nuati Herbals, and our theme music is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember,
The bizarre is closer than you think.